many years ago, I set a goal for myself to run a marathon. Up until that point, I had run pretty extensively. I had done lots of 5Ks and a handful of 10Ks and one or two, maybe half marathons. I can't remember, but like anybody that's in that sport, I set a goal to run a marathon, and I was working full time as well and travel a lot. And one thing about a marathon is you have to really train for it, and so you have to set aside time to be able to put in the miles. And so I did that, and it took me months, as you can imagine. And I don't do well in the heat, so I had to kind of pick my times to run in the summertime. I think the marathon was in March, so I had a few good winter months there where I was doing pretty well. But once I did it, so the race day came, and I ran and I finished it barely. And I do remember crossing the finish line thinking, okay, I don't ever have to do that again. But um, and after that, I actually stopped running for a while because I had reached my goal and everything else was just kind of anticlimactic. And so what I realized in that moment was that when I was training, again, I was working for another company full time, and that company took me to different cities. And so I got to run in some wonderful, wonderful cities. Central Park in New York, Lakefront in Chicago, ran past the Arch in St. Louis. I mean, some really very memorable things. And so, what I realized as I look back on that is that I really appreciate not necessarily finishing the marathon. It was everything that led up to it. So, in other words, the pursuit. And so, when we look back on our lives in the very brief time that we're here, I think that we will be most appreciative of the actual pursuit of a goal versus achieving the actual goal. And so that is never more true than in real estate. I think that the yardstick by which we measure our success a lot of times are closings. And if I can just get one more closing, and I know why that is because closings equate to money. But I think that when we're honest with ourselves, the better reward is everything that is leading up to those closings, the chasing the sale, the closing the sale, the fostering those relationships. And so I'm here to tell you today that as we enter into a new year, be mindful of that, because it's much more gratifying to have been through the pursuit than it is to have actually achieved the goal, because it is in that pursuit that we actually learn the most and grow the most.